and welcome to Freshly Served, the healthy vegan cooking show. I'm Heather, and tonight we are going to make a lemon pesto potato salad, which is going to be a nice change from your usual potato salad, which is often done with mayonnaise. And I find that, first of all, it has eggs in it, so it's not vegan. Second of all, it always tastes really heavy, and that's not the nicest thing for a summer afternoon. So I'm going to take these potatoes, and I'm going to do them with a lemon pesto instead, which we can use a whole bunch of fresh basil, which is one of the best parts of summer. The thing I'm going to start with is the potatoes. They need to cook first, and I'm using some red potatoes because they have a beautiful skin. When I cook potatoes, I don't like to peel them because the peel is where a lot of their nutrients are. So what I'm going to do is cut these into quarters, put them in some water, a little pinch of salt, bring them to a boil, and they're going to cook in about 15-20 minutes. While those potatoes are cooking, we can start on the pesto, and I've got some pine nuts that I've toasted. Now when you're toasting them, be very careful. They toast very quickly, and many a time I've burned them. So less is better than more, but roasting them a little bit brings out their flavor, which is fantastic, and since they're pretty expensive, you want to make sure you get as much out of them as you can. I often do a pesto with different ingredients, but today I'm just going to show you your standard straight up pesto with basil and pine nuts and garlic. Let those pine nuts cool off a little bit before we have a go with them. What I'm going to do next is chop up my basil, which is so lovely in the summer, really nice and fresh, has a beautiful flavor. It's really going to bring a nice flavor to our potatoes. Use a food processor if you like, but what I'm going to do is just chop up my basil really nice and fine and put it into this mortar and pestle here. Once the pine nuts have cooled down a little bit, I'm just going to grind them in my coffee grinder and add them in here. But first what I'm going to do is add a bit of olive oil. And normally pestos are made with just olive oil as the liquid, but in order to cut down on the fat a little bit and bring in some flavor, I'm going to use some lemon juice. And whenever I use the juice of a lemon, I just can't resist zesting it, so that's what I'm doing here. So it's just taking the very outer skin of the lemon off, and that's where all the flavor is. There's also some interesting nutrients in there. You can do this with a grater if you wish, but just be careful. A zester is pretty cheap, so go out and buy one if you can see one. They're only a few bucks. But then what I'm going to do is juice the lemon in here. So I've got a little strainer. I'm just going to take my lemon and poke it with the zester and squeeze like so. And that's going to squeeze the juice right down into the pesto. Once you get the liquid in there, if you're using a mortar and pestle, you want to crush the basil so that it releases its flavor into the liquid. If you're using a food processor, it's going to do the same thing when you're chopping it up. It's just not as fun, you know? Once the pine nuts have had a little bit of time to cool off, you can put them through your coffee grinder or your blender. If you put a mason jar, screw it in the top, blend them that way as well. You want to pulse it so that you don't get a paste. You want these to grind. And if there's a few chunks, that's okay. So pour that right in with the basil. So these potatoes are done. If you poke them with a fork, they should be pretty soft. We don't want them falling apart though, because it is a potato salad. So we want them to stay somewhat intact. Now I've added some parsley to my pesto because I ran out of basil and I had quite a bit of pine nuts. So I added some parsley. If you're buying basil, it's a lot cheaper way to make a pesto. You just use some basil and some parsley. Put these potatoes in this big bowl in order to cool off, let their steam come off, and I'll finish off the parsley with some pressed garlic and some salt. To lighten this salad up a little bit more, and of course greens are always an important part of your diet, I'm going to put some greens in here. I'm using mustard greens. Now, I hate mustard greens, but when I get them mixed in with the potatoes, when I get the pesto on, I like it. It adds a nice sharp flavor to the salad, and it's always good to get things in your diet that you wouldn't normally eat because they bring different nutrients. So get some pesto on here, toss it around. I'm not going to put all of the pesto on here. I'm going to save some because it's really nice to have on. Pasta is the standard, but you can also put it on sandwiches or in a wrap or with your French fries, however you want to do it. There you go. Healthy vegan lemon pesto potato salad. This will be great as a light lunch or dinner, or take it on a picnic for a nice summer afternoon. You can find the recipe at healthyveganrecipes.net. I'm Heather, and this is Freshly Served.